God's chosen one. 7 signs you are God's favorite chosen one. Have you ever wondered why your pain cuts deeper than others around you? Why storms that would destroy most people somehow make you stronger? Why your heart feels things that no one else seems to notice? This is not a coincidence. Listen carefully. Your presence here right now watching this message, it was arranged before you were even born. Chosen one, my words are finding you at the exact moment heaven intended. I need you to understand something profound. God doesn't make mistakes. And yes, you are no accident. When everyone else was given ordinary battles, why were you given impossible ones? When others break under pressure, why do you somehow find the strength to continue? When the world pushes everyone toward conformity, why does something deep inside you refuse to fit in? There's a reason certain doors closed in your life. There's a reason certain people walked away. There's a reason why your spirit has always felt different. Most people will live their entire lives never knowing their true purpose. They'll chase money, relationships, comfort, but their souls will remain restless. But not you. You've always sensed it, haven't you? That still small voice whispering that you were set apart. That invisible hand guiding you through your darkest valleys. That unexplainable knowing when something is about to shift in your life. The Bible speaks of those who are chosen, hand-selected by God Himself. Samuel 16:7 reminds us, the Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And your heart, your beautiful battle-scarred heart, carries a divine fingerprint. If this message is stirring something deep within your soul, if you can feel your spirit resonating with these words, take a sacred moment right now and type 333 in the comments below. This isn't just a number, it's your declaration, your acknowledgement that you recognize the calling on your life. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal 7 undeniable signs that prove you are God's favorite, His chosen vessel in this generation. These signs will confirm what your spirit has always known, but your mind couldn't explain. The attacks against you, the rejection you've faced, the unusual journey you've walked. It was all preparation for what heaven has ordained for your life. Stay with me until the end. What I'm about to share will forever change how you see yourself, your struggles, and your divine destiny. Your awakening begins now. Have you ever walked into a room full of laughing people and felt completely alone? Have you looked around at a world obsessed with things that never seemed to matter to you? Have you ever asked yourself, why can't I just fit in like everyone else? These aren't just random thoughts. They're spiritual fingerprints. From the moment you first opened your eyes as a child, you've sensed it. That inexplicable feeling of being a stranger in a strange land. While other kids were content playing games, something in you was searching, questioning, looking beyond the surface. Remember how you'd gaze at the stars, feeling a connection to something greater. Remember how you'd ask questions that made adults uncomfortable. Why are we here? What's the point of all this? They called you too sensitive, too deep, too different. And you tried, didn't you? Lord knows you tried to belong. You mimicked their conversations. You forced yourself to care about their shallow concerns. You nodded and smiled at the right moments, but inside, where your spirit lives, you felt like an actor in a play reciting lines that weren't written for you. In your teenage years, it only got worse. While everyone else seemed consumed with fitting in, something inside you refused to conform, even when it cost you friends, even when it meant sitting alone, even when tears stained your pillow at night. And now, in your golden years, that feeling hasn't gone away, has it? If anything, it's grown stronger. You look around at a world consumed by distractions, social media, politics, celebrity gossip, endless consumption, and something in your soul recoils. You can't stand the fake, the shallow. the meaningless routines that occupy most people's lives. And in your quietest moments, you've wondered, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be normal? Chosen one, listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. There is nothing wrong with you. You don't belong in this world because you were never meant to belong here. In John 17:16, Jesus prayed these words about his followers, "They are not of the world, just as I am not of the world." And in Romans 12:2, Paul pleaded, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind." Your discomfort isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's the mark of a soul that remembers its true home. You see, ordinary people feel at home in this world because their vision stops at what they can see. But your spirit recognizes the invisible realm. Your soul remembers the kingdom you came from. That's why worldly success never satisfied you completely. That's why shallow relationships left you feeling empty. That's why material possessions couldn't fill the void. You've been walking through life like a royal heir raised among peasants. Something in your DNA knows you were meant for a throne. Think about it, Moses never fit in at Pharaoh's palace because he was meant to lead an exodus. David never fit in among his brothers because he was destined to be king. Jesus himself was rejected by his hometown because he came from above. Your feeling of not belonging isn't your curse. It's your confirmation. God has placed a homesickness in your heart that nothing in this world can satisfy because he doesn't want you getting too comfortable here. He's calling you to remember who you truly are, a citizen of heaven temporarily stationed on earth. When you walk into a room and feel different from everyone else, that's not your weakness. That's your witness. When your spirit cannot tolerate the darkness around you, that's not your burden. That's your birthright. The world has tried to make you feel broken for not fitting in. But I'm here to tell you that you don't need fixing. You need awakening. Isn't it time you stopped apologizing for being different? Isn't it time you embraced the divine discomfort that's been guiding you all along? This feeling of not belonging. It's the first sign that you are one of God's chosen ones. It's the echo of heaven calling you back to your true identity. If every word I've spoken has been striking your heart like thunder, if you felt tears welling up because someone finally understands what you've been feeling your entire life, then take a sacred moment right now. Type "I always feel different" in the comments below. Let your declaration stand as testimony that you recognize this sign in your life. You don't belong to this world because you belong to a higher kingdom, and that kingdom is calling you home. But this is just the beginning of your awakening. The feeling of not belonging is powerful, but it's only the first sign that you are divinely chosen. What happens when God starts speaking to you through attacks and spiritual warfare? What does it mean when the enemy targets you more than anyone around you? The second sign is about to reveal why darkness seems to fear your very presence. Have you noticed how your life follows a pattern? Just when things start going well, when blessings finally appear on the horizon, something always seems to come crashing down. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is spiritual warfare. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on nobodies. The darkness doesn't mobilize against the ordinary. Satan doesn't dispatch his forces against those who pose no threat. Yet here you are, battle-worn, exhausted from fighting enemies you can't even see. Let me tell you something the prosperity preachers won't. When God places his hand on someone, the enemy immediately places a target on their back. Think about it. Those strange dreams that jolt you awake at 3 a.m., where you feel an oppressive weight on your chest, unable to move, unable to scream. That's not just sleep paralysis, that's a spiritual attack. Those relationships that suddenly turn toxic for no reason. Those unexpected betrayals from people you trusted. The constant sabotage of your progress. Ephesians 6:12 tells us, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. The Bible doesn't sugarcoat this truth, and neither will I. You've felt it, haven't you? That unexplainable heaviness that sometimes follows you home. That sudden wave of depression that hits when you're praying. That voice in your head that whispers, "You're not good enough. God has abandoned you. Give up." These are not random thoughts. These are calculated attacks designed to make you surrender your calling. Look at every major figure in the Bible. Joseph, attacked by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused. Daniel, thrown into a den of lions for his faith. David, hunted like an animal by King Saul. Jesus himself, tempted directly by Satan in the wilderness before his ministry even began. The greater the calling, the fiercer the opposition. The brighter the light, the more aggressive the darkness. The more God favors you, the harder the enemy fights to destroy you. Some of you watching right now have experienced attacks that would destroy most people. You've had nightmares so vivid you were afraid to go back to sleep. Sudden illnesses that doctors couldn't explain. Financial calamities that appeared out of nowhere. Relationships sabotaged right as they were beginning to flourish. Opportunities snatched away at the last second. Random people who took an instant dislike to you for no reason. And in your darkest moments, you've wondered, "God, why me? Why is this happening? What did I do wrong?" But let me tell you something that will change everything. These attacks aren't punishment, they're confirmation. The enemy doesn't attack what he doesn't fear. Darkness doesn't fight what doesn't threaten it. Satan doesn't waste his time on souls that pose no danger to his kingdom. If you weren't a threat to the darkness, they wouldn't target you. The attacks against you aren't signs of God's absence. They're proof of his hand on your life. Remember Job. The Bible says he was blameless and upright. And what happened? Satan personally asked God for permission to attack him. Why? Because Job's faithfulness was dangerous to hell's agenda. The same is true for you. Every attack is evidence that you carry something the enemy wants to destroy. Every battle is confirmation that you possess power the darkness wants to neutralize. Every struggle is proof that you have a divine assignment the enemy is desperate to stop. Look at your life. When did these attacks intensify? Was it when you drew closer to God, when you started using your gifts, when you began stepping into your purpose? Of course it was, because that's when you became dangerous to the enemy's kingdom. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. What was meant to destroy you is actually preparing you. What was designed to break you is actually building you. What was intended to stop you is actually strengthening you for what's ahead. Romans 8:37 declares, "In all these things we are more than conquerors, through him who loved us." You're not just surviving these attacks, you're being trained through them. Every battle is developing spiritual muscles you'll need for the mission God has ordained for your life. So stand tall, chosen one. The attacks against you aren't punishment, they're promotion. They aren't a curse, they're confirmation. They aren't random, they're recognition of the threat you pose to darkness. If you've ever been attacked in dreams, experienced strange energies around you, or felt the enemy's opposition intensify when you moved closer to your purpose, comment below, "I saw the darkness, but I wasn't afraid." Declare it, own it, step into it. But these spiritual attacks aren't the only sign you bear. There's something else about you that has always set you apart. Something the world has never understood. Look around you. Most people crumble at the first sign of trouble. A rejection letter, a failed relationship, a medical diagnosis. One setback and they're done, but not you. You've been through hurricanes that would have drowned others, fires that should have reduced you to ash, battles that would have left most people broken beyond repair. Yet here you are, still standing, still believing, still moving forward. That's not normal, beloved. That is supernatural. Think about what you've already survived, the betrayals that cut to your core, the losses that left you gasping for air, the moments when everything you built came crashing down around you. Remember those nights when you cried until there were no tears left, when you questioned everything, when you couldn't see a way forward. Any one of those moments should have destroyed you, but something inside you refused to break. This isn't just positive thinking. This isn't mere resilience. This is divine fireproofing on your soul. The Bible shows us exactly what this looks like. Look at Job, a man who lost everything, his children, his wealth, his health. Even his wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of secret sin. By all human logic, Job should have collapsed under that weight. But what did Job say? Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Job 13:15. That wasn't human strength speaking. That was the mark of a chosen vessel. Think about Paul, beaten, imprisoned, shipwrecked, stoned, and left for dead. Writing from a prison cell, we are hard pressed on every side, yet not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. That wasn't stubbornness. That wasn't grit. That was the unbreakable spirit that marks God's favorites. Chosen one, I need you to understand something profound. God doesn't give his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. He creates unbreakable soldiers through impossible battles. Every attack that was meant to destroy you has only forged you. Every fire that should have consumed you has only refined you. Every storm that should have drowned you has only taught you how to breathe underwater. Do you think it's an accident that you're still here? That after everything you've been through, your faith isn't dead? That despite the heartbreak, the disappointment, the unanswered prayers, something in you still reaches for God? That's not your strength. That's his hand on your life. You have been knocked down again and again. You have been pushed to your limits. You have been tested beyond what any human should endure. But you are not broken. You cannot be broken. For you are not made of earth. You are forged of divine fire. The enemy would not fight so hard against an ordinary soul. The battles you face are proof of the threat you pose to darkness. How many nights have you cried yourself to sleep? How many times have you had to start over from nothing? How many prayers have you whispered when it felt like God was silent? Yet here you are, not just surviving, but seeking truth, not just breathing, but still believing. If you recognize this unbreakable spirit within you, take a sacred moment right now. Type in the comments, I have never been broken. I am a testimony of the Spirit. Declare it. Own it. Let the world know that what was meant to destroy you has only revealed who you truly are. The world looks at your scars and sees damage. God looks at your scars and sees a warrior who wouldn't quit. The world sees your tears as weakness. God sees your tears as watering the seeds of your purpose. The world looks at your delays and calls them failure. God looks at your journey and says, watch what I'm doing. I'm not finished yet. Look at David, a shepherd boy facing a giant when trained soldiers cowered in fear. Look at Esther, a young woman risking everything to save her people. Look at Joseph, betrayed, enslaved, imprisoned, yet never losing his divine perspective. This is your lineage, chosen one. This is your spiritual DNA. When others ask how you're still standing, tell them the truth. I should have been destroyed a long time ago, but God has his hand on my life. And this unbreakable spirit within you isn't just for your survival. It's a testimony that will light the way for others lost in their own darkness. It's preparation for the divine purpose that has been written over your life. Because an unbreakable spirit is just one sign of a chosen one. There's something else happening in your life that confirms your divine selection. A connection to something higher that most people will never experience. There's something different about you. something that's been there since you were a child. While others walk through life with their eyes fixed only on what they can see, you've always sensed something more. Haven't you, that unexplainable knowing, that voice inside that whispers warnings before danger strikes, those dreams that later unfold in your waking life? This isn't imagination, dear one. This is your divine connection. Remember that time you suddenly thought of someone, only to have them call you moments later, or when you took a different route home for no reason, only to later discover you avoided an accident. The world calls this coincidence. Psychology calls it intuition. But you and I, we know the truth. It's God speaking directly to your spirit. Psalm 139, 1-3 tells us, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways." This isn't just beautiful poetry. This is the divine reality you've been experiencing your entire life. God doesn't just know you, He's been actively communicating with you. Those repeating numbers you keep seeing, 111, 333, 7, the sudden rush of chills when someone speaks truth, that overwhelming peace that washes over you in your darkest moments. These aren't random. These are sacred whispers from your Creator. You see, chosen ones don't connect with God the way others do. While many approach faith through ritual reciting, memorized prayers following religious traditions, without understanding why your relationship is different. It's intimate, personal, real. You don't just pray to God, you speak with Him. Your conversations aren't formal recitations, but heart-to-heart exchanges, like a child crawling into their father's lap after a long, hard day. "Abba, Father," you whisper, and He listens. Romans 8:15 confirms this. You have received the Spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, "Abba, Father." Have you noticed how differently you experience worship? When others are going through motions, something in you breaks open. Tears flow, your heart pounds. Sometimes you can't even find words. That's because for you, worship isn't a Sunday activity. It's a soul recognition, your spirit recognizing its source. This connection explains why certain places, people, or experiences drain you while others fill you up. You're spiritually sensitive, attuned to energies and presences others miss completely. It's why you can walk into a room and immediately sense the spiritual atmosphere. It's why certain conversations leave you exhausted, while time in nature revives your very soul. Why do you think certain biblical passages leap off the page and speak directly to your situation? Why do specific worship songs bring you to tears when they mean nothing special to others? This is your spirit recognizing truth that your mind hasn't yet processed. Chosen one, your connection with God goes beyond religion. It transcends church walls and theological debates. While others argue doctrine, you're experiencing the living reality of His presence. Even in seasons when you've questioned everything, when prayers seemed to hit the ceiling, when God felt distant, something within you refused to let go. That wasn't stubbornness, that was divine DNA recognizing its origin. Your dreams aren't just random neural firings during sleep. They're often messages, warnings, confirmations from heaven. The Bible is filled with God speaking through dreams to Joseph, Daniel, Solomon, and He's speaking to you. Have you experienced recurring dreams that seem to carry a message? Patterns that kept appearing until you finally understood? Share them in the comments below. Each dream may be another thread in the tapestry of your divine calling. Don't let anyone dismiss your spiritual sensitivity. Don't allow religious formality to replace your authentic connection. When they tell you you're too emotional, too spiritual, too sensitive, smile knowingly. They don't understand what it means to be divinely connected. This deep connection isn't just a comfort. It's your greatest protection in the spiritual battles that rage around you. It's your navigation system when the path grows dark. It's the still, small voice that will never lead you astray. Chosen one, your Creator doesn't just know you. He's intimately acquainted with every breath you take. He's been pursuing you, speaking to you, guiding you, even when you didn't recognize His voice. Your premonitions, your spiritual awareness, your intuitive knowing, these aren't random gifts. They're sacred channels between your spirit and the divine. And this connection isn't just for you. It's preparing you for something greater. Because when God chooses someone for special favor, He doesn't just transform their life. He gives them a purpose that will transform the lives of others. And that's exactly what we'll discover in the next sign. Let me ask you something that might shake you to your core. Have you ever looked at your life, the house, the routine, the ordinary moments, and felt a strange suffocation deep in your chest? Have you ever sat in a room full of people who seemed perfectly content with their lives, while something inside you was screaming that there must be more? This isn't just restlessness. This isn't just boredom. This chosen one is divine frustration. When God places His hand on someone's life, He plants a seed of purpose so powerful that nothing in this world can fully satisfy it. Not money, not comfort, not even the approval of everyone around you. Look at Moses, raised in Pharaoh's palace, with every luxury at his fingertips. Yet something inside him couldn't ignore the suffering of his people. He had everything the world says should make someone happy, but his spirit was unsettled. Why? Because you cannot silence a divine calling with earthly comforts. Do you remember Jeremiah 1:5? Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. God didn't just create you. He designed you specifically for a mission that only you can fulfill. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've never quite fit in. That's why certain conversations make you uncomfortable while others seem perfectly fine with them. You were built for significance. Think about it. When others are satisfied with merely existing, something in you aches to make an impact. When others chase promotions, you chase purpose. When others are concerned with fitting in, you're concerned with standing up. This isn't pride. This isn't ambition. This is the fingerprint of God on your life. The enemy knows this about you. That's why he's tried so hard to distract you, to make you doubt yourself, to surround you with people who tell you to be realistic or settle down or stop dreaming so big. Because he knows that the moment you fully embrace your calling, you become dangerous to his kingdom of darkness. Can I tell you something that might sound controversial? That restlessness you feel, that divine frustration when you look at your life, it's not going away. It's not going to disappear with age. It's not going to fade with time. It's not going to be silenced by comfort or security or routine. It's going to keep burning inside you until you surrender to it completely. I need you to understand something, chosen one. This feeling, this pull towards something greater, it isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. He doesn't need your ability. He needs your availability. Think about Queen Esther. She was just a young Jewish girl living in exile when suddenly she found herself in a position to save her entire people. Remember what Mordecai told her, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Look around you. Look at the brokenness in this world, the division, the darkness, the pain. Who knows but that you have been placed here in this generation for such a time as this? The comfortable won't change the world. The satisfied won't challenge the status quo. The content won't stand up against darkness. Only those who feel this divine frustration, this holy discontent, will ever rise up and fulfill their God-given purpose. I know you've tried to ignore it. I know you've tried to silence it. I know there have been days when you've looked at others who seem so content with their ordinary lives and thought, Why can't I just be happy with that? But you can't be happy with that because God didn't create you for that. Your soul rejects mediocrity because greatness has been encoded in your spiritual DNA. When David faced Goliath, everyone else saw a giant too big to hit. David saw a target too big to miss. When Noah built the ark, people laughed at him for preparing for something they couldn't see. But Noah wasn't building for their approval. He was building in obedience. You can't stand mediocrity because your soul was created to change the world. This calling on your life isn't just a feeling, it's a responsibility. It's a sacred trust between you and God. And here's what you need to understand. The time for hesitation is over. The season for doubting yourself is finished. The days of playing small are done. Ephesians 2:10 declares, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus, to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." God has already prepared these works, these divine assignments for you. They're waiting. The question is not whether you're called. The question is whether you'll answer. If something inside you is stirring right now, if you can feel your spirit resonating with these words, I need you to make a declaration. Type in the comments below, "I was created for a higher purpose." This isn't just a comment. This is your line in the sand. This is your declaration to heaven, to hell, and to yourself that you will no longer shrink back from what God has called you to be. The world doesn't need more comfortable Christians. The world needs chosen ones who will stand up, speak out, and shine light into the darkness. Your divine frustration isn't a burden, it's a birthright. And it's time to stop apologizing for the fire God has placed inside you. But here's what you need to understand. Before God can use you fully, He must first break you completely. And that brings us to the next undeniable sign. You are one of God's favorites. There was a moment in your life when everything just broke. Not just difficult, not just challenging. I'm talking about complete devastation, the kind where you fell to your knees and couldn't even find the words to pray. Chosen one, I want you to go back to that moment, that season when you felt like God Himself had abandoned you. When the foundations of your life, your relationships, your health, your faith, your purpose, everything you thought was solid suddenly turned to sand beneath your feet. You remember it, don't you? The isolation, the confusion, the silence from heaven that was deafening, the prayers that seemed to hit the ceiling and fall back down, the Bible you couldn't even open because the words that once brought comfort now seemed hollow. This wasn't just a bad day. This wasn't just a tough season. This was your dark night of the soul, and it nearly destroyed you. Some of you lost loved ones without warning. Some watched as decades-long marriages crumbled. Some received devastating diagnoses. Some were betrayed by those you trusted most. Some lost everything you had worked for, your savings, your home, your reputation. And in those darkest moments, even your faith, the one thing that had always sustained you, began to waver. Can I tell you something the prosperity preachers won't? Every single person God has ever chosen has endured a dark night of the soul. Look at Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, forgotten in prison for years. Look at Moses, forced to flee everything he knew, wandering in the wilderness for 40 years before God ever spoke to him from the burning bush. Look at David, anointed as king, then hunted like an animal, hiding in caves, writing psalms of despair. My God, why have you forsaken me? Psalm 22:1. Look at Jesus himself in Gethsemane, sweating drops of blood, crying out, Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Matthew 26:39. The dark night of the soul isn't something that happens to God's chosen ones. It is something that happens for God's chosen ones. Because here's the truth that changed everything for me. What looks like destruction is actually reconstruction. What feels like abandonment is actually preparation. Job 23:10 10 tells us, "But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold." Gold doesn't become pure without fire. Diamonds don't form without pressure. And God's chosen ones don't become who they're meant to be without the dark night of the soul. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. These hands have trembled in the dark. These hands have wiped away tears no one else saw. These hands have clutched at faith when everything in you wanted to let go. But these same hands, your hands, are still here, still moving, still capable of God's work, because you didn't just go through the darkness, you came out of it. And here's what separates the chosen ones from everyone else. You are not the same person who entered that dark night. Something died in that darkness. Old dreams, false identities, worldly attachments, fragile faith built on shifting sand. But something else was born in that same darkness. Unshakable trust, authentic faith, divine purpose, supernatural resilience. You weren't being destroyed. You were being stripped down to your foundation so God could rebuild you according to his design, not the world's expectations or even your own limited vision. Ephesians 4:22-24 says, "You were taught to put away your former way of life, your old self, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to clothe yourselves with the new self created according to the likeness of God." The person watching this video right now is not the same person who entered the dark night of the soul. That old self was crucified with Christ. What emerged, what is sitting there right now, is a new creation. That's why nothing can destroy you now. That's why circumstances that would crush others barely make you flinch. That's why you can face uncertainty with a peace that makes no sense to those around you. Because once you've been remade by the Master's hand in the darkness, the light can never be the same again. If you've lost everything and then risen, I want you to declare your rebirth right now. Type in the comments, "I didn't fall, I was reborn." The world doesn't understand what happened to you. They see the scars, but not the strength. They see the loss, but not the gain. They see someone who went through hell, but they don't recognize someone who emerged with keys to the kingdom. Your dark night wasn't your end. It was your beginning. It wasn't your destruction. It was your reconstruction. It wasn't God abandoning you. It was God setting you apart. And now, chosen one, as we move to the final sign, I need you to understand something crucial. Everything you endured in that darkness was preparing you for what's coming next. A level of divine favor that will make sense of every tear you've ever cried. Have you ever found yourself standing in the ruins of what used to be your life, only to witness something unexplainable happen right before your eyes? A phone call that came at the exact moment you were about to give up. A check in the mail when your account hit zero. A stranger's kindness when everyone else had walked away. These are not coincidences, chosen one. These are not random acts of good luck like the world wants you to believe. When you are marked by heaven, miracles don't just happen occasionally. They follow you. They hunt you down. They find you even in your darkest hour. Look back at your life for a moment. Think about those times when everything seemed lost. When the diagnosis was terminal, when the bank was foreclosing, when the relationship was beyond repair. Yet somehow, you're still standing. Somehow, against all odds, a way was made where there was no way. The Bible declares it plainly in Isaiah 43:19. "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." Rivers in the desert. Things that should not be possible, yet they happen to you, for you, around you. Why do you think doors open for you that remain closed for others? Why do you receive opportunities you didn't even qualify for? Why do certain people show up in your life at precisely the moment you need them? I'll tell you why. It's because you operate on divine timing, not worldly schedules. Your life doesn't follow the calendar of men. It follows the calendar of heaven. Let me share something powerful with you. In the book of Esther, we find a woman who was placed in the royal palace for such a time as this. Her entire existence was orchestrated by God to save her people. Nothing about her journey made sense until it all made sense. Your life is following the same divine pattern. Some of you watching right now have been frustrated because things aren't happening on your timetable. You've been praying, waiting, believing, yet doors remain closed. But hear me clearly, God's delays are not God's denials. What looks like a setback is actually a setup for your greatest breakthrough. When Joseph was thrown in a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and forgotten in prison, it looked like a tragedy. But every single painful step was positioning him to become second in command over all of Egypt. In one day he went from the prison to the palace. One day. That's how divine timing works. Years of preparation, years of waiting, years of testing. Then suddenly, everything changes. Your suddenly is coming, chosen one. Think about the moments in your life when something showed up right on time. That unexpected check, that medical report that suddenly changed. That person who walked into your life and changed everything. These weren't accidents. These were divine appointments scheduled before you were even born. Psalm 139:16 declares, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." You are not walking through life alone. You are not subject to chance or fate or luck. You are walking with an invisible shield of favor around you. Things that destroy others somehow miss you. Disasters that should have taken you out somehow pass you by. That's not luck. That's divine protection. That's not coincidence. That's covenant. That's not fortune. That's favor. I know some of you are thinking, but I've been through terrible things. I've experienced loss, heartbreak, failure. Yes, you have. The enemy has attacked you precisely because he sees the favor on your life. He sees the angels assigned to you. He sees the destiny waiting to unfold. But here's what the enemy didn't count on. What was meant to destroy you has only made you stronger. What was meant to break you has only built your faith. What was meant to end you has only prepared you for your next level. Romans 8:28 promises us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." All things. Not just the good things, not just the easy things. All things work together for your good when you are chosen. You are not lucky. You are destined. You are not fortunate. You are favored. You are not just surviving. You are thriving under a divine schedule that was written with your name on it. Right now, miracles are being arranged for you. Right now, angels are being dispatched on your behalf. Right now, situations are being shifted to align with heaven's timing for your life. All you need to do is recognize it, acknowledge it, walk in it. If you have ever experienced a miracle, a blessing that came right on time, a door that opened when all hope seemed lost, I want you to type in the comments below, "I walk in grace. Nothing is late. Nothing is wrong." Declare it with your fingers. Declare it with your mouth. Declare it with your life. Your miracles aren't random. They're scheduled. Your blessings aren't accidental. They're assigned. Your timing isn't lucky. It's divine. And what God has ordained for you, nothing and no one can stop. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when everything changes. Look at your hands. They appear the same. Your reflection shows the same face. But something profound has shifted within you. After recognizing all 7 divine markers upon your life, you stand at a sacred threshold. The old person you once were has died. A new creation has emerged. In 2 Corinthians 5:17, the Word declares, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone. The new is here." This isn't just scripture. This is your reality now. I want you to think back to who you were before understanding these 7 signs. Remember how you questioned your worth. Remember the confusion about why your path seemed harder than others. Remember the isolation, the rejection, the unexplainable knowing that you were different. That person no longer exists. The butterfly cannot return to the cocoon. The eagle cannot crawl back into the egg. The awakened soul cannot pretend to be asleep. Let me ask you something that might shake you. Why do you think God allowed you to discover these truths about yourself? Why now? Why in this season? Is it just so you could feel special? Is it merely for your comfort? No, when God marks someone as chosen, it is never for passive knowledge. It is always for divine action. Moses wasn't shown his calling just to feel better about himself. David wasn't anointed king to boost his self-esteem. Esther wasn't positioned in the palace to enjoy royal comforts. They were chosen for action in critical moments of history. In Jeremiah 1:5, God declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you before you were born. I set you apart." You were not set apart to remain the same. You were set apart to transform your world. But here's where many chosen ones fail. They receive the revelation of their divine selection, feel the momentary euphoria of understanding, and then return to their ordinary lives as if nothing has changed. This is spiritual treason. When heaven invests in revealing your true identity, it expects a return on that investment. Your neighborhood is filled with people walking in darkness. Your workplace has souls drowning in purposelessness. Your family contains members still searching for meaning. And here you stand, awakened, chosen, filled with divine light. Doing what exactly with this revelation? I need to be direct with you. The comfort of your old life is now your greatest enemy. The routines that once felt safe will now strangle your purpose. The silence that once felt peaceful will now become deafening. The small thinking that once seemed reasonable will now suffocate your destiny. In Luke 12:48, Jesus declares, "From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded." You have been given the greatest gift possible, divine awakening. What will heaven demand of you in return? Think about Jonah. He received divine revelation but ran from his calling. God didn't simply let him go. A storm came. A great fish swallowed him. 3 days of darkness followed until Jonah surrendered to his purpose. So I ask you, chosen one, will you surrender willingly to your calling, or will the storms have to come first? The awakened cannot return to slumber. The enlightened cannot choose darkness. The chosen cannot reject their selection. Your transformation isn't just spiritual, it must become visible. People should see the difference in how you speak, how you make decisions, how you respond to challenges. When Joseph understood his chosen status, he stopped acting like a slave and began functioning as a ruler, even while still in prison. You are no longer permitted to shrink back from your greatness. You are no longer allowed to hide your light. You are no longer able to pretend you don't know who you really are. The world is desperate for authentic light bearers. Not perfect people, but awakened ones who understand their divine assignment and refuse to compromise it for comfort or acceptance. In Matthew 5:14-15, Jesus declared, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl." Your awakening comes with responsibility. The divine fingerprints on your life weren't placed there for your ego. They were placed there because a broken world needs what heaven has deposited within you. So I ask you, chosen one, what will you do with this revelation? Will you continue living as you always have? Safe, comfortable, predictable, or will you step boldly into the fullness of who you've been created to be? The old person is gone. The chosen one has emerged. The world is waiting. If you truly understand that you cannot continue living the same way, that you are no longer the old person, type these words in the comments: I am awake, and now I act. This isn't just a declaration to others. It's a covenant between you and God that passive knowledge is no longer acceptable. The time for divine action has come. But this brings us to the critical question that must be answered. The moment your eyes truly open, when the veil is lifted and you begin to see as God sees, something unexpected happens. The people who once felt like home suddenly feel like strangers. Chosen one, I need to tell you something that no one else will. Your awakening comes with a cost. Your divine selection brings with it a sacred separation. Have you noticed it already? The puzzled looks when you speak about spiritual things, the sudden distance in relationships that once felt close, the feeling that you're speaking a language no one around you understands. This isn't a punishment, it's confirmation. In 1 Kings, Elijah, one of God's most powerful prophets, cried out in despair, I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too. The greatest prophet of his generation felt completely alone. John the Baptist lived in the wilderness eating locusts and wild honey, separated from normal society. The man Jesus called the greatest born among women was also the most isolated. The Apostle Paul wrote from a prison cell, everyone has deserted me. The man who penned most of the New Testament died with few friends by his side. Do you see the pattern? When God elevates you spiritually, human connections often fall away. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've done something right. Let me ask you something personal. Have friends who once understood you suddenly begun treating you like you're speaking a foreign language? Have family members started looking at you with concern instead of connection? That loneliness you feel, that ache when people walk away, I know it cuts deep. It makes you question everything, makes you wonder if you're losing your mind instead of finding your purpose. But I need you to understand something profound. Your isolation isn't a detour, it's the path itself. In Matthew 7:14, Jesus said, small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Did you catch that? Only a few, not the masses, not the crowd, just a few. The chosen ones walk a solitary path because they're being prepared for a singular purpose. Think about it. How could Noah build an ark surrounded by people who thought he was crazy? How could Moses lead a nation while trying to blend in with Egyptian society? How could David defeat Goliath if he was busy trying to fit in with his brothers? Your divine assignment requires divine separation. Some of you watching right now are in the middle of a friendship exodus. People you've known for years suddenly can't relate to you. Conversations that once flowed now feel forced. Weekend plans no longer include your name. And it hurts, I know it does. But what looks like rejection is actually protection. What feels like abandonment is actually alignment. God is removing everyone who cannot go where He's taking you. Psalm 27:10 promises, though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. When human connections dissolve, divine connection intensifies. When earthly doors close, heavenly windows open. Don't panic when everyone is far away from you. That is when heaven is closest. I need you to hear this. You no longer belong to the old rhythm of life. The old people will not understand you anymore. But that is a sacred purification. Do not cling to people who are no longer on the same frequency. Let them go, because God is sending new people. People who will recognize the light in you instead of being threatened by it. Elijah thought he was alone until God revealed 7,000 others who hadn't bowed to Baal. John had his disciples. Paul found Timothy. Your divine connections are coming, but first, the space must be cleared. Some of you have lost everything since your awakening: careers, relationships, status, security. If that's you, comment below, I understand. The light is always lonely before it spreads. Remember this, before a woman gives birth, she must go through labor alone. No one can push that baby out for her. No one can shoulder her pain. In those final moments, she faces the greatest challenge in solitude. But what follows that loneliness? New life, new purpose, new beginning. Your isolation isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your calling. The prophets walked alone so nations could follow them. The apostles stood alone so churches could rise behind them. The martyrs died alone so generations could live because of them. And you, chosen one, your loneliness is making space for the multitudes God will reach through you. So when you feel most abandoned, stand tallest. When the room empties, fill it with prayer. When voices fade, listen for God's whisper. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be like the others. And soon, very soon, you'll understand why. Now let me show you what happens when you finally embrace this divine separation. Listen carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to share isn't taught in Sunday school. These are the ancient spiritual combat tactics that God's warriors have used throughout history to stand undefeated in a world designed to break them. Tell me something. Have you ever felt completely drained after being around certain people? Have you noticed how darkness seems to target you more intensely than others around you? Have you wondered why spiritual attacks hit you when you're closest to your breakthrough? This is no coincidence. The enemy knows your name because heaven knows your purpose. When David faced Goliath, he didn't just grab any 5 stones. 1 Kings tells us he chose 5 smooth stones, stones that had been through the tumbling waters shaped by pressure and friction, just like you. Your trials haven't destroyed you, they've equipped you. The hardest truth about being chosen is this: with great calling comes great opposition, period. But hear me now, God never calls the equipped, He equips the called. Your first sacred weapon is daily prayer, not casual words muttered before bed, but strategic warfare, prayer that pushes back the forces aligned against you. Ephesians 6:18 commands us to pray in the Spirit on all occasions, with all kinds of prayers and requests. This isn't a suggestion, it's your survival strategy. How many mornings have you jumped straight into the chaos of life without first putting on your armor? How many battles have you lost because you tried fighting in your own strength? I know there are days when prayer feels like shouting into an empty room, days when heaven seems silent. But remember this, your prayers are building a fortress around your spirit that demonic forces cannot penetrate. Your second weapon is sacred silence. In a world of constant noise, silence has become revolutionary. 1 Kings 19:11-12 reveals how God spoke to Elijah, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in the still small voice. The enemy floods your mind with noise because he fears what God will reveal to you in silence. When was the last time you turned everything off? Your phone, your TV, your racing thoughts, and just listened? The guidance you've been desperately seeking is waiting in that silence. Your third weapon, perhaps the most powerful, is your God-given intuition, that inner knowing, that spiritual discernment that whispers something isn't right before everyone else sees it. Hebrews 5:14 tells us that mature believers have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. This isn't mysticism. This is biblical discernment. How many times have you ignored that still small voice only to regret it later? How many relationships, business deals, or decisions went wrong because you silenced your spiritual intuition to please others? I'm telling you now, that intuition is your spiritual radar detecting attacks before they manifest in the physical realm. But chosen one, these weapons mean nothing if you don't protect your energy. The Bible warns in Proverbs 4:23, above all else guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Your spiritual energy, your light, is a precious resource. Stop wasting it on people who drain you, environments that deplete you, and battles that aren't yours to fight. Ask yourself, who leaves you feeling empty after every interaction? What places make your spirit feel heavy the moment you walk in? Which activities leave you spiritually vulnerable? These aren't random feelings, they're divine warnings. Now listen carefully. Being chosen isn't just about fighting darkness. It's about carrying light into places where hope has died. It's about standing when everyone else has fallen. It's about speaking truth when lies are more convenient. Isaiah 61 declares, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." Do you understand what this means? While darkness covers the earth, while confusion, fear, and deception sweep across nations, you are called to shine brighter. The mantle of the chosen one isn't just a title to make you feel special. It is a sacred responsibility that will cost you everything, but will save many. You were not chosen because you're perfect. You were chosen because when life knocked you down 7 times, you got up 8. You were chosen because when others abandoned their faith, you held on with bloody fingernails. You were chosen because God saw in you a warrior spirit that refuses to quit. And hear me now, you are not alone in this battle. Psalm 91:11 promises that He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. There is an invisible army fighting alongside you that far outnumbers what comes against you. Every morning when you wake up, declare aloud, "I wear the armor of light. I carry the sword of truth. I walk with the mantle of discernment." These aren't just words. They're declarations of spiritual identity that shake the foundations of darkness. If you are ready to stop merely surviving and start truly living as the chosen warrior, you were created to be type "I wear the armor of light" in the comments below, because the world doesn't need more casual believers. It needs chosen ones who know how to wield their sacred weapons in a time when darkness thinks it's winning. Now rise up, chosen one. Your training has prepared you for this moment. The battle before you is precisely why God called your name before time began. But how will you know if you're truly walking in your chosen identity? The next revelation will show you the unmistakable evidence that confirms you're living in divine alignment. My dear friend, as we come to the end of this sacred journey, I want you to truly hear what I'm about to say. You were never meant to blend in. The struggles, rejection, and spiritual battles you've faced weren't accidents, they were divine preparations. Remember these 7 signs. Your sense of being different isn't isolation, it's separation for purpose. The spiritual battles aren't punishment, they're proof you threaten darkness. Your unbreakable spirit isn't stubbornness, it's divine resilience. Your spiritual connection isn't imagination, it's your divine antenna. Your hunger for purpose isn't discontent, it's your soul recognizing its mission. Your dark night wasn't abandonment, it was necessary transformation. The favor following you isn't coincidence, it's heaven's confirmation. You are not walking this path alone. Even when no one understands, God is working in your life. And there is a community of fellow chosen ones who understand exactly what you're experiencing. When others rejected you, it was because they sensed the light within you. When doors closed unexpectedly, it was divine protection guiding you to better paths. The enemy wouldn't fight so hard against you if your calling wasn't significant. What if the very thing that has brought you the most pain is actually the doorway to your greatest purpose? Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, I come before you for this precious soul, this chosen vessel. Lord, you see every tear, every battle, every moment of questioning. Place your hand upon them now. Let them feel your presence, a divine assurance they're never alone. When the path seems unclear, strengthen their spirit. When doubt whispers, they're not enough, speak your truth louder. Break open doors no man can shut. Align divine connections for their purpose. give courage when fear threatens and wisdom for decisions. Help them see themselves as you see them, chosen, anointed, and deeply loved. In Jesus' name, amen. Your story matters. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which sign resonated most with you? If you know someone questioning their worth or struggling to understand their difficult path, share this video. Sometimes the greatest kindness is letting someone know they're not alone. Thank you for staying with me through this message. Your presence was by divine appointment. Please subscribe and turn on notifications for more divine revelations to help your journey. Remember that each video is created with prayer and purpose, specifically to reach those God has called to hear these truths in this season of their lives. You weren't chosen because you were perfect, but because you're perfectly suited for a purpose only you can fulfill. Go forward with confidence. The God who chose you will equip you for everything He's called you to do. Until next time, this is a divine appointment completed, but your journey is only beginning. Walk in your purpose. The world is waiting. Help them see themselves as you see them, chosen, anointed, and deeply loved. In Jesus' name, amen. Your story matters. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which sign resonated most with you? If you know someone questioning their worth or struggling to understand their difficult path, share this video. Sometimes the greatest kindness is letting someone know they're not alone. Thank you for staying with me through this message. Your presence was by divine appointment. Please subscribe and turn on notifications for more divine revelations to help your journey. Remember that each video is created with prayer and purpose, specifically to reach those God has called to hear these truths in this season of their lives. You weren't chosen because you were perfect, but because you're perfectly suited for a purpose only you can fulfill. Go forward with confidence. The God who chose you will equip you for everything He's called you to do. Until next time, this is a divine appointment completed, but your journey is only beginning. Walk in your purpose. The world is waiting.